Baba Neil Clarke, who for going on 50 years has played many percussive instruments with many great musicians. Before we meet him, let's get a little taste of his talent at an appearance in March.
All right, that was definitely applause-worthy. The djembe, bongos, congas, timbales, and tambora, just a few of the many instruments Neil Clarke has played throughout his long career. Now, he was born and raised in Brooklyn, and he was just recently honored by the Central Brooklyn Jazz Consortium. And while he's performed with some of the greats of American jazz, his focus has in large part been on playing and promoting the African drum, which he has said is a form of protest. And if you're wondering, a protest against what? Well, that's exactly what we're going to ask him. So right now, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Baba Neil Clarke. Welcome to BK Live.
Thank you. Nice to be here. Thanks you so much. Yeah.
We appreciate all the work.
Well, yeah, a lot of fun, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of fun and a lot of work and protest. So let's start right with that then. How is playing the drums specifically, the African drum, and bringing that music?
That's an interesting way to approach it. Yeah. Well, you know, the African drum, when people think about Africa, a lot of times one of the things that they think of first is drumming.
It's true.
And any place you find in the world where African people have gone, there are drums. Afro-Cuban, Afro-Dominican, Afro-Haitian, and in this country, as in all of those places, the African drum was outlawed. It was banned. Stoner Rebellion in 1739, September 1739, there was a protest, there was a rebellion, and the drum was a significant part of that. As a result of that, the powers that be banned the drum. They outlawed the drum. So
in all the colonies.
In all of the British colonies, because this was a British colony at the time. So in all of the colonies, because the French did it, the Spanish did it, the Portuguese did it, but here they did it, and more than any place else, it had an impact on the presence of the drum. The common narrative is that the drum was taken away. The drum disappeared. Well, I've been involved in research to say that that is not exactly true. So as I was coming up, you did not find the African drum prevalent in American music. Right. So for me to learn how to play it, I had to go exploring musics of the African diaspora, other places, Cuba, Brazil, Haiti, Trinidad, Jamaica. But the interesting thing is one of the first musical pieces that I learned to play was a piece recorded by Stevie Wonder. Fingertips. Stevie Wonder's first big hit. Right. He was playing bongos. And so there's been a thing where the African drum has been present throughout the history, but it has been suppressed because it is a mechanism of team building. So Haitian Revolution, the African drum was played. And we find today that other cultures and other societies, and even in America, the virtues and the value of the African drum is touted. It's used for healing, stroke victims, senior citizens, and even you find corporations hire groups of drummers to come in to have drum circles for team building. So the very virtue that the drum provided for African people has been adopted by corporations in every avenue, but still the misconception is that it's something to be avoided, it's something not worth considering. When you look at the African drum and the mastery of it, it's not considered to be equal to the violin. So anybody will come and tap on a drum and it's a big joke, oh look, I'm playing it, you know, but they won't do that with a violin. They won't do that with a piano.
So then what does it mean to master something like the djembe where like they're not making posters at Carnegie Hall to say, oh, come down and see this, where you would see a world-class violinist? Because it's something that if you pick it up, it's going to make a sound. But you can make it sing, but I can hit it. But if I took a violin but a guy or a woman who knows how to play can make it beautiful. So how does that like skill versus just being able to make noise translate to the artistic merit of the instrument?
I think first it's about the sensibility. I think first it's about the sensibility, and what are the sensibilities? And what we have is the sensibilities of certain traditions and certain cultures are touted above others. So is there an appreciation of what African drumming is? We can sit down in a scholarly setting and I can pull out 20 or 30 documents that talk about the communicative virtues of African drum, where
the mathematical implications.
Absolutely, but even when the explorers went to Africa, Africans were communicating over long distances with the drum. They didn't have cell phones. They didn't have any electronic media, and it was really not until the telegraph was invented that Europeans. Exactly. So to play the drum, is there an appreciation of it? In cultures where it is an integral part, Afro-Cuban music, Dominican music, Haitian music, Jamaican music, where the drum has always been there in a very vital, vibrant context, people have a greater appreciation of it. Since Motown, since the 60s, there has been the beginning of an integration. Well, even Nat King Cole, there's been an integration of the African drum in popular music, which is where I came in. And I'm listening to a lot of the Motown recordings, and they had congas and they had bongos in the music, which was my music. And it gave me an opportunity to enter into an appreciation of the music, but then I realized that there was a greater vocabulary that I had to learn. So I had to go to those cultures and those societies where it had been cultivated and developed to a higher level. So I think in that sense, that was my exploration of it. The average person might not recognize it. They may not see it. So it's part of my mission is to kind of, educate people to a greater understanding and greater appreciation of what drumming is and where it fits and what makes a good drummer and what makes an average drummer, or
I feel like you mentioned some of those communicative aspects of it, and kind of discussion and just kind of a group aspect to drumming, which reminds me of jazz and that communal group, that kind of community making music, which is jazz. Tell me about that and like how you feel about that.
Oh, well, to me, jazz is the highest form of American music. It's America's classical music. Even the Congress has designated jazz as the highest form. Jazz is a combination of virtuosity and spontaneous composition. And my participation in that is very exciting because, again, as a result of the Stoner Rebellion and the attitudes that came forth, the drum was kind of marginalized. So for me to be able to develop a vocabulary and a skill to a certain level to be able to participate in that musical dialogue, that musical conversation that goes on in the jazz genre. It's very exciting to be able to play with a piano, with a violin, with a bass, with a trumpet, with a saxophone, and engage in that conversation. Yeah.
Well, you've run us right up against the
I
wall.
know.
We have like 8 more questions left, so you should come back or do a B-side or something.
Oh, I
This
would
was
love
too
to.
fun.
Yeah, this is, and it's the opportunity. I have to thank you.
Oh,
The
please.
opportunity to be able to engage in this
We
conversation.
didn't even talk about Harry Belafonte, Miriam Makeba Weston.
Randy Weston, right?
But save it for next time, because
Okay.
we got to take care of some business and go home.
Sure
But
enough.
Thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you,
today, sir.
Brian, Melody, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.